Oh, wait, that's my. Oh, geez, Louise. These are for you, Karen. Karen, sorry, Sharon, when you're looking at Karen, seeing you.
I'll stage it out. That's fine.
So we have 2 absentees.
We do. They clearly have other things they needed to be doing.
There's my little book, so I know what's going on here.
Well, that's interesting.
School handbook.
Came all the way in the other day to sign for you, and you had already come in to sign.
Was that last
Told you,
Thursday?
yeah, Nancy is in trouble.
Yeah, I think I came in Thursday. We were up in the woods.
She was frantically getting me to
Nancy.
come sign.
Did we have, is this the first time we're hearing about the middle school handbook?
Yes,
So why are we voting on it?
we're voting on the high school.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
thank you, Jackie.
Thanks for
that.
clarifying that, because I'm like, haven't paid attention to this.
Just around the corner.
Well, if worse comes to worse, we can drive to a store.
You know
Yeah,
what?
the packet's so tiny. It's just so very nice.
I don't want to be sought after. I don't want to be found sometimes.
We recognize her. I see.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Good evening, welcome to the Thursday, August 10th school committee meeting. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:02. And the first order of business is the approval of the July 13th minutes. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Karen abstaining. And that motion is unanimous because abstention voids out. All right, next order of business is public comments. Anybody here for public comments? Seeing no one, we will move on to recognitions. Mr. Carpenter, do we have any recognitions this evening?
I don't have any in the package.
We should recognize everybody just because.
Oh,
Everybody for coming here on a beautiful summer evening. Yes, ma'am.
a couple of years ago, I tried to institute us writing a letter to all the retirees to thank them for their service.
Okay.
And so I'd like to, maybe for the next meeting, do that. That way they'd get it before
The school year
school
starts?
year starts.
I think that's a very nice idea.
Thank you.
Clary's letter. Thank you. And so next up will be reports and discussions, and we have Mr. Wilson. Are you doing a combination? No, the Monomoy Regional Middle School Handbook.
Good evening, committee. Thank you. I've given you a summary of the changes to the middle school handbook for the upcoming school year. There are limited changes, most of them for formatting and improved organization. And I've given you a list 10 days ahead of time of the additions that we've made. I kind of highlight, I guess, the activities and awards to describe some of the extracurricular and club events that are available to our students, and the awards piece, which lays out our end-of-year awards and associated eligibility criteria as part of our school improvement plan. The rest is fairly straightforward, and ask if there are any questions.
Anybody have any questions? We did get this material, I believe, more than 2 weeks in advance even. Well done, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions on handbook changes? All right, well done, Mr. Wilson, thank you. So we'll move on to your middle school improvement plan.
Big smile.
That is our school improvement plan, the update. It's a 2-year plan, so we're in the middle of that cycle. As required by Mass State law, we meet monthly and we post our agendas. So there's a listing on the website of the agendas for when we met over the course of last year. And after each agenda, we have minutes that are approved by vote by the school council. Those are also posted, so you can keep track of the conversations we have over the course of the year. These are always on the website. I want to thank our school council for last year, Janet Auer, Joy Jordan, and Cheryl Mador, who are the parents from the community. Joy's actually joining us here tonight. Sherry Armstrong and Kathy Andrews, who are the teachers on the school council, and myself. And as we go through a little color coding to help you out, where you see green in some of the goals, those reflect an activity that we did back in September, where we took our school improvement plan and looked at our heads and hearts, what our priorities as a school staff. If it's green, it means that our staff basically voted for it and says, if we do this, we know in our head that this is going to make our school a much better school, so we focused on those things. And if they put a red dot up on our school improvement plan, it reflected something that was near and dear to their hearts. So all of the work that we did reflect either our intellect and our passion in order to make our school a better school. I've given you 13 slides of the assumption that you've had a chance to look over them and ask any questions ahead of time. So I'm going to go fairly quickly through these. I'm probably going to focus on 4 or 5 of the slides. And then if you had any questions about the other areas, I would answer those. Before I start, is there anything in particular you want me to focus on in my presentation? And I'll make sure that I hit it.
Anyone? You're free to go.
The world's my oyster. Awesome. This particular one, we open up with construct and teach interdisciplinary units that leverage the unique history and environment at Cape Cod. That's in red because it spoke to the heart of our school and things that we're passionate about. We've developed a number of interdisciplinary units over the course of the year. And we'll continue to develop those. I'll focus on maybe just 1 or 2 of these. One that you're very familiar with, and that goes through grades 5 through 7, is our vernal pools program. Last April, a year ago, about a year and a half ago now, we actually built vernal pools on property adjacent to the school and have been environmental stewards for those pools for the last year and a half. I'm pleased to say we're now 1 species short of an actual vernal pool designation. They have proven to be one of the most successful vernal pools that were actually established anywhere on the Cape. And we've gone from just kind of a wasteland of dirt and water to a nearly thriving full vernal pool. And once we get that designation from the Audubon Society, we'll actually be able to grow species and introduce them potentially into the vernal pool of the Monomoy property. All students in grades 5 through 7 participate in that. It's been a fantastic thing to watch that environmental resource evolve over time. Other things going on, there's a great new one that we just did this spring in grade 6, where we connected with the Mass Board of Underwater Archaeological Research and the Widow Pirate Museum to look at the relationship between scientific study, historical events, and informational text as a joint unit between our geography teachers at grade 6 and our ELA teachers. There's lots of other things there that I could speak to. If there's anything particular you want me to talk to, I'd be happy to. Otherwise, I'm moving on. Service learning is something that you've gotten a briefing on earlier this year from Dr. Blanchard, and so I'm not going to go into the evidence on this. You can ask questions if you like. This again speaks to the unique history and environment of Cape Cod, but a service learning approach that connects our students with community-based experts, organizations, and resources. One thing I do want to share with you and the community are all the partnerships that we've established between our school and visiting organizations and institutions. And I'm just going to scroll quickly so that you can see just the wide range of just science-based partnerships that we have established in the last couple of years at Monomoy. And all of these individuals either come into the building to work with our students, or we travel out in kind of short distance field trips to be able to meet them in the field and be able to learn about the environment and challenges facing Cape Cod with community experts. It's pretty impressive. If you're having a chance to kind of see any of this in action, I'll let you know when we go out, like for instance, like the Pleasant Bay, and do our water quality monitoring, where we're doing some really neat projects where we're looking at the water quality in Muddy River, particularly as it's changed over the course of the last couple of years with the installation of the bridge. Any questions? You're making this easy for me. Improve student ability to analyze complex text, construct viable and valid arguments using evidence, critique the reasoning of others, and engage in argument using evidence. This is green because it speaks to the intellect of our staff and our students. We recognize that doing this well is going to improve our school across the board. The only evidence I'll kind of draw your attention to in particular is the common rubric that we developed for claimed evidence and rubric that we claimed evidence and reasoning that we use across the building now for all disciplines, so that no matter what content we're in, students have the same rubric that they can use to make sure that they're supporting their claims with evidence. This has helped give us more consistency across all of our disciplines, and allow our students sort of a common benchmark at which to assess their own work. We also do a fall and a spring benchmark assessment. The fall sets the baseline, the spring shows the progress. So all of our students get a writing prompt, an opportunity to develop an on-demand essay, and then scored using this rubric, so we give them some feedback prior to jumping into MCAS in the spring. This is similar to what the high schools use for their claim evidence and reasoning rubric. Again, I know this stuff like the back of my hand, so don't let me go too fast. If you have questions, please ask. Another one that speaks to the head of our school, collaboration, creativity, communication, critical thinking, as well as information, media, and technology literacy is a 21st century learning skill. One of the strongest places we're addressing that is through our seminar courses that we developed last year and we will continue this year. We're pretty proud of some of the pretty powerful opportunities that we're providing our students and that their skills can grow through that. And some of the 21st century skills targeted in our seminars, we're looking at history of the Holocaust, Wednesday Wars, which is a award-winning text about the civil rights movement, Constitution, iCivics, robotics, filmmaking, jeweler solar sprint, stagecraft, service learning, and astrophotography. We also did some astrophysics that didn't make it onto the list. So we've got our students exploring some pretty fantastic content through our seminar courses, and we're using those as a lever to have them collaborate and create products that reveal their critical thinking as they use technology to advance a lot of this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Last slide.
Ms. Ryder?
Yeah. Are you using the EV3 Lego Mindstorms?
I'm sorry?
What version of Lego Mindstorms are you using for robotics?
Whichever was the most recent one. I'll have to get you the specific.
It's probably EV3. Okay.
You mentioned something at the end of your question.
EV3.
I'll have to look it up for you. I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
One of the things we want to do is be able to prepare our staff for our One World Chromebook initiative and provide them with professional development on the 21st century skills we want them to embed in their classroom instruction. Over the course of all last year, I'll give you some sample agendas from our monthly faculty-led workshops that we had on Google Apps. We had an informal drop-in session once a month with one of our staff members who put together agendas on Google Slides, Google Forms, Google Sheets. We also have a major training on the 28th. I just want to point this out. It's pretty neat. We've got a G Suite training on the 28th. We've got 25 slots. I've got 25 staff members who have extended their school year for no pay to come in on Monday the 28th outside of the contract to participate in the training and be able to kind of equip themselves with the skills they'll need to be successful. So I just want to commend them for being able to actually really add a day of professional development to their calendar.
Ms. Ryder?
Which of the tools in G Suite are you using?
We're using Sheets, we're using Forms, we're using Slides. We'll be using the Google Classroom Suite and all of that to be able to connect students with team drives. For instance, they'll be able to collaborate jointly on a particular document and be able to edit it simultaneously when they're doing some text analysis, things of that nature. I can give you kind of the agenda here gives you a bit of what we're looking at in terms of the outcomes for that particular day. And these are more of the skills-based pieces here. We're talking about how to use the tools for reading and writing. Are you looking for a particular tool that you're hoping where our staff will be familiar with and we can make sure that's in part of the training?
Not specifically. I just wondered how many of the tools that are in G Suite you're actually going to be using. And are you training on all of them on the 28th?
No, which would be impossible. The ones we most want to make sure that our staff are confident and be able to use Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Forms, and be able to have students collaborate when they're working on projects together. And that would be kind of one of the main goals for that day.
Ms. Ryder?
Will you have subsequent trainings for the rest of it?
We're going to have to. There's no way we get it all done in one day.
Thank you.
So one of the conversations I met with Jim Birchfield today, actually, we tried to begin to lay out what the map will look like as this is really a 3 to 5 year initiative to have staff become comfortable enough in all the tools to be able to be expert. I'm going to be real quick on this slide. We're initiating a one-to-one Chromebook initiative in the fall. You've already seen the overarching goals for the Wonder World initiative. As a matter of fact, it was that document that allowed this to kind of get rolling, so I'm not going to spend any time on this unless you have questions.
Ms. Stepp?
On the one-to-one initiative with Chromebook, are they learning keyboarding skills, actual, like typing skills or something, so they are more efficient than just however they learn themselves?
We're building our first quarter seminar for every student in grades 5, 6, and 7 will be a foundational seminar in Chromebook and classroom skills. Within that, we'll have a conversation about building in some time for them to keyboard. But as a district, we need to have a conversation about where in our K-12 curriculum do we introduce keyboarding skills and where do we develop them. Our hope would be that at grade 4, students start to become familiar with the keyboard and some of those skills. And so we can build on that, but at grade 5, we're anticipating at the moment that very few students are coming in with proficient keyboarding skills, and we'll have to provide some time within our curriculum. We'll have lots of practice for them to use their Chromebooks to respond, and to be blunt, there'll be some students that are quicker than others, and others will kind of soldier their way through learning the keyboard probably by, peck and
Yeah.
search and peck.
Right. Thank you.
One of the things we've done well is identify students in need of intervention enrichment to provide appropriate academic support. That happens again through our seminar blocks using our map data. We've been briefed on maps, so you understand what that looks like. About 6 months ago, I gave you a briefing on map and how we use the student reports to be able to identify what students are strong at and what students need some help with. This is a reminder. This is one of the stronger reports you can get out of the map. This particular one, we're looking at a student's score in mathematics. Is there a pointing capability other than standing up there? Never mind. This student's score is in the 54th percentile nationally. There are millions of students who take this, so this particular student is an average student based on their national score. There's a projection, level 3, that if this student were to take the PARCC score this spring, they would score level 3. Level 4 is actually proficient. So they would change from a yellowish brown color to green if they were going to be proficient. You see some relative strengths. This particular student, if you look at statistics and probability, their score was 223. Geometry was 233. Real and complex numbers 234. And operations, algebraic thinking was 236. So statistics and probability is an area of suggested focus for the student. So we can use the data to identify that. As a seminar, we can then provide that student in a seminar for statistics and probability. So we can use the map data to really fine-tune the types of interventions that we provide to students. This one I'll be happy to drill down if you're interested, if you had a chance to look at it previously. We do look at performance by gender, by ELL status, by race. This is the one I've shared you today as a gender comparison. It's pretty fascinating data. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, I'd be happy to go through it now if you like. There's also a slide there that shows a very effective math classroom performance based on the map data and some additional data-informed efforts. Would you like me to drill down on any of these? Yes? No? Another thing that spoke to the heart of our staff was to establish and sustain a school-wide culture that celebrates growth, achievement, and citizenship. I'm going to drill down whether you want me to or not, because there's some great things going on. One of the things that we have is our Evening of Excellence, where in the spring, in this past year, we invited 99 students up onto the stage to recognize them for a series of awards that are based on established national criteria, like for the presidential awards, local criteria, or statewide criteria. And there's a description of all the different awards our students won. We have some students actually who placed Olympiad, we had some students who scored, outscored 110,000 other students nationally in the top 5% of the students who took the Math Olympiad. And develop student citizenship and leadership skills is another thing that spoke to the hearts of our students. Again, you're familiar with many of these. The Shark Citizenship Initiative I briefed you on before. We had 132 citizens last year at the end of the year. And each of those citizens were celebrated in the record. Our entire 7th grade went up to the State House to meet with Representative Peake and actually had a chance to debate in the House. It was empty that day, so they actually had a chance to sit in the representative seats and have a lively debate on some topical issues. And we have brought into the school some of the strategies of the Boston Debate League in order to promote vibrant discussion with students on current issues. All of those help build leadership and civic skills. We strengthen our grading practices by establishing grading expectations for our seminar classes and our other classes. Those will be posted to the website once the school year opens and each teacher builds their own website. And last is something you haven't been familiar with, but we are looking for, in our school improvement plan and our budget for the upcoming school year, to be able to add a guidance counselor for the middle school. At the moment, we have one guidance counselor for the entire school. We would like to add another one. I think it's safe to say that we could use it. And I will share some probable positive news. The district projected our building for 434 students for the upcoming school year. We're anticipating an increase, not quite that high. We had a few adjustments over the last few days, but we are anticipating an increase of around to 460 students. So there should be a reasonable balance in the number of students in our school between last year and this, based on our ability to keep a few more students in district, and we do have an enrollment bump coming in from grade 4 to grade 5.
I have a question on that.
Ms. Stepp?
We've had, several months ago, reports about the increase that was happening at the middle school. And so I wondered, has there been anything figured out how to keep our levels for the highest numbers to still be within our guidelines per
For
classroom?
highest numbers in terms of class size.
Class size.
Class size will remain as it should be within the guidelines for the district. To meet the enrollment bump coming into grade 5, we reallocated staff to address that anticipated increase. So we have reduced the number of instructional assistants that are available for our staff, but we've been able to add the one additional section, the 9th section for grade 5.
Okay, and then for grade 6 and 7, do you also have 6 teachers or whatever the number is for each of those?
We have 9 sections in grade
9.
5. We have 8 sections in grades 6 and 7.
And was that the same as last year?
Yes. The only difference is to go from 8s to 9 in grade 5.
So evidently we'll have larger class sizes because we're having an increase.
We'll have larger class sizes, particularly at grade 5 with the enrollment bump. And our UA classes at grade 5 in particular will be larger than they were last year.
Blessings and challenges.
Ms. Richardson?
Okay, I commend you for presenting a document that's filled with SMART goals. Secondly, I was curious as to how you presented the aspect to the teachers so that you got 25 of them to come in on their day off.
I said it's going to be a great training. It'll help them be successful over the course of the year, and invited them to participate, and they said yes. There's a really great staff.
I'm just curious about how many did not participate.
Well, the rest of them. And I don't even want to answer that question at this point, because to be honest with you, I'm expecting in the next 10 days that some staff will get away from email and on holiday are going to email me frantically and say, I'd like to be in that. So rather than say it's set and done at this point, my goal is to, I think Karen's question about how do we sustain professional development through time for everybody is where I'm focused. So we're talking about taking those staff who are there on the 28th, We're going to leverage their training on the 28th and have them actually train their peers on the 31st. So when all staff are here for that professional development day, they've all agreed as part of my invite, I said you actually have to share what you learn on the 31st, and they were happy to do that. So we'll be able to sort of train the trainer on Monday and have them share on Thursday, and we're putting together a nice agenda that focuses very strongly on what are the skills you need to be successful in this first year of the Chromebook initiative, and then how can you use those really effectively in the classroom. We're going to model some lessons that staff can use as a sort of exemplar.
Thank you. Ms. Ryder?
First question is, what community members were involved in, on the school council?
We've been looking for for community members, individuals that are not have a child in our school to serve. And we have not been able to have anyone that stepped up in the past. Our hope is this year that we will have a community member. I've had one community member reach out to me and say they would like to serve. We put that out as an appeal every year in our summer newsletter. We also have it at every open house, and we send kind of a joint statement out that we're looking for those individuals.
Right, because my understanding that's state mandated, a community member, at least one, be part of the school council.
I absolutely agree, but I'm pretty sure I can't kidnap one, so I will need one to volunteer.
Second question was, what did you total number of staff at the middle school?
Are you including custodians and
No.
total number of like
Educators.
classroom teaching staff?
Yeah.
25.
educators. Pardon?
25, if you're including just class, like the core subject areas of English, Math, Science, and Social Studies, we've got another 10 that are Unified Arts teachers.
So 35 total? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Wilson? Very good. Thank you very much for a very thorough and concise presentation.
As brief as I could make.
That was spectacular. Thank you. All right, the next order of business is the superintendent's evaluation, and everyone had submitted their evaluations to me by August 4th. And so what we're going to do is what we've done in years past, and I think it has worked very well, is we're just going to go around the table and allow everyone to give a brief synopsis of their individual evaluation, keeping in mind that these evaluations are public documents, therefore anybody who wants to see them is more than welcome to. So we're going to try to keep our comments to a shorter version of what you have written. And I thought we could just go around the table. So we'll start with Ms. Richardson.
Well, with that in mind, I wrote out a few things I thought it'd be quicker. Personally, one of my own character traits is I want it all and I want it now. And
At least you're honest.
serving on the Monomoy School Committee is solely teaching me patience and to look for the positive. Evaluating the superintendent is a process of patience, and I am pleased to say positive progress. Superintendent Carpenter has done much to have favorable conversations and relationships established with the selectmen or the select board. He's available for their frequent communication, presentations, and attendance at their meetings. The school budget, certainly no easy task, supports the district's vision, mission, and goals, and it seems to allocate and manage expenditures consistent with district and school level goals and available resources. With that said, there appears to be a gap from these resources and strengths to the actual student in the classroom. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, or DESE, identified that the district spends above average in per pupil expenditure, that is investments in new curriculum, assessments, and professional development. However, the district is not meeting its targets toward narrowing achievement gaps. Based on the DESE report and current assessment, changes in the coming year seem to need to focus on the classroom based on that report. The classroom should reflect what is happening in the professional development opportunities and strategic plan. But for whatever reason, there appears to be a disconnect, again, related to the DESE report. Personally, and I didn't want this to be, but I'm just gonna say, as an educator with more than 30 years of teaching in an elementary classroom, as well as training teachers, I ask, why is this disconnect? What kind of follow-up is given after professional development sessions? What support is provided from administration? What are the expectations? And I suspect goals may not be clear, because in my opinion, the strategic plan is weak in regards to SMART goals. But we just had a fine example of SMART goals with the presentation. Anyway, finally, the superintendent, I feel, needs to be more mindful what procedures are happening or not at all schools. The lack of quorums at school councils is one concern. And in conclusion, there are a lot of positive happenings in our schools, and I could spend the rest of the night listing them, but just to name one, there was the Evening of Excellence at the middle school, the Jossam Hour, Chatham Elementary has the student newspaper, and Shout Out, and Harwich has the high fives. Can we be better? Improve? Of course we can. We have a strong, strong base. I feel that the base is strong. We just need to fit into some of these, we fill in the gaps. And I am confident it will happen sooner rather than later, but I'll be patient.
Thank you. And I do need to clarify, Mr. Craffey is absent this evening, and he opted to not complete an evaluation due to his newness on the committee. So I actually only received 7 evaluations this year. So we'll skip over absent Mr. Craffey. And Ms. Ryder.
Thanks, Donna. That's a really hard act to follow.
Oh, gee.
That was very well spoken, very well said. Well, there have been some bright spots, and I did mention that in the evaluation. I really was disappointed that on several fronts. One of them was that, and this was a big one, the superintendent did not provide his goals until almost at the end of the school year, in spite of the fact that every other educator in the system and every educator by state mandate is supposed to provide the goals at the beginning of the school year or the beginning of the evaluation cycle. And that was the beginning of our evaluation cycle. In addition, the school committee had completed their goals, and we still waited another 9 months to receive Mr. Carpenter's goals. So I could not, in good conscience, give a good rating at the progress towards goals. It's pretty easy to provide a goal and then a month later say, oh, I met that goal, or I made a lot of progress on that. So I was really disappointed in that. I was disappointed in the lack of data that was provided to us by the superintendent as evidence for this evaluation. I collected evidence all year long, positive and negative, and I know that the educators, the teachers in our school system that I have heard from do the same thing. They spend all year long collecting their evidence. I also found that we really we do not have data-driven culture here, and I would like to, that is what it should be. That is what we should be doing on many levels, and besides the fact that it's another thing that the state requires, data, SMART goals, the whole thing. When there is data, it may or may not be provided to school committees, so that's basically it. In summary.
Thank you, Ms. Ryder. Mr. Russell.
Thanks, Nancy. I'll summarize. I gave Scott this past year a proficient rating in all areas. My summary statement, the 2016-17 school year has shown significant progress. The superintendent's leadership has produced positive gains in several key areas. The closing phase of a successful high school building project, the adoption of a new system-wide K-7 math program, the usage system-wide of the MAP testing protocol. The consistent review of the system-wide strategic plan has created a positive and challenging tone within the school district. Scott has demonstrated a calm and positive leadership style while facing many challenging issues during this past school year. I would highlight his budget skills. I've been impressed over several years with his ability to link in with our two town finance and selectmen boards, his ability to seek some long projected goals regarding our physical health, and I think we've seen the results of that.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Ms. Long?
Okay. I just wanted to do, just brief. Coming on the committee in the fall, I was immediately thrown into the DESE evaluation, which was interesting at the least. But I felt that after that, the results were a direct reflection of not only our administrative team and our teaching team, but also the superintendent's efforts in a quickly growing and still very new district. And we are definitely still facing a lot of growing pains. But with that said, there's progress to be noticed, and there was a lot of effort in that area. And I think that we saw that in the summation in the district goals as a clear marker for the continued success for Monomoy. I feel Scott exemplifies growth and learning, and he engages a passionate administrative and teaching staff. And I also wanted to just mention that it can't go unnoticed that he has a keen ability to foster and engage the community, the key players in our community, and I think that is a huge piece to everyone that plays a role in the budget, our selectmen, and of course his team here at the Monomoy District, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stout?
So the areas were goals, instructional leadership, those have both have been discussed earlier. Management and operations, I think, is a strength that we have at this new building. It's not only the upkeep of this building, but the other buildings, I think, are at least proficient, if not in some cases exemplary. I think that's a very big strength we have. Family and community engagement, I think Jackie just spoke about Scott's strength in talking with and working closely with the town manager, the finance committee, the selectmen, and I think those are strengths. What I would like to see, and what I rated as needs improvement, was that the average person, our community, we have a new entity here, relatively new. And I think that we need to, as the superintendent and as a larger group, do more for engaging the different groups around town to have shared visions. I think that when we were Harwich and Chatham, there was clearly a shared vision. I don't think we've done enough for that. Despite us having more newsletters going out than ever, I think those do help greatly in whoever they get to. But as far as having like a strategic plan or some kind of activity where we have representatives from all stakeholders, that's an area that I'd like to see more growth in. Professional culture, I think that was mentioned. Commitment to high standards, cultural proficiency, communication, shared vision, managing conflict. A lot of those things go more into the community. So overall, there was some needs improvement and a lot of proficiencies.
Thank you. And I was aware that Mr. Duvall was going to be out this evening. He's in a much better place than we are, looking at a lake, probably enjoying the beautiful weather, and here we sit. So I will just give a brief synopsis of Mr. Duvall's evaluation. He rated the professional practice goal as significant progress. The student learning goal and the district improvement goal were both met, and his overall rating, in addition to all of the performance standards, were as proficient, and the rating of impact on student learning, Mr. Duvall rated as high. So that's Mr. Duvall's. And then for my evaluation, I feel that I'm more of a bullet point kind of girl, not a sentence So I think that some of the strengths are working with the administrative team to promote a consistent and constructive evaluation. I think that's a very good strength we've been working on the past couple of years. The implementation of the MAP testing, the willingness to take the DESE recommendations and reflect upon them, and I look forward to seeing what the next steps will be in the next year or so. As been mentioned several times, the communication and work that you do with both towns during budget season, I think has made a phenomenal difference with relationships in terms of budget time. It's just your transparency there is incredible, and I very much appreciate that. I enjoy the year-end surveys, the willingness to share and reflect on all the responses, both good and bad. The youth risk behavior survey continues to be a strength of our district, and the willingness to, again, show those results, good and bad, and then reflect on them and figure out what we're going to do to make our kids safer. And the willingness to move forward with the Math in Focus. A little over a year ago, we started with that, and instead of taking the time to do the trial run for the year, taking the request of the search team to just go ahead and dive in with the Math in Focus curriculum, and understanding that it will take time overall for it to be fully adopted and accepted and implemented in the district, and there has been some growing pains there in recognizing those. And needs improvement, it's not really you as much as I would say all of us. It's more communication to everyone. I guess not more communication, it's correct communication, and making sure that the rumors out there are actually true rumors and not false ones. And that's not necessarily a superintendent goal, but I think that's something that we all need to work on, because we've all heard the telephone game rumors that if I tell something and down to Ms. Richardson, she's going to be all of a sudden saying some random comment, and we need to squelch those. And so somehow figuring out a way to get the correct information out there to everybody. So my overall rating of superintendent was proficient, and that's mine. So after taking everybody's, all 7 evaluations, I did a fun calculation, and I shared that my brain hurt after doing all of this, because my brain was throbbing at the end of the day trying to make sure that it was accurate. But I did mathematical calculations to combine everybody's together. Everybody received a copy of this. Mathematically, for each each goal, Mr. Carpenter's progress toward each of his goals was significant. So that was that category. For each standard, it was proficient, therefore creating an overall performance as proficient, and the rate on student learning was moderate. So very well done, thank you. And I just summarized everybody's comments, but most of my comments came from everybody else's comments, so I am not going to reread the summative comment that I put out unless anybody feels it's necessary. Or maybe I should for the TV audience, huh? Okay, so I said, overall, the superintendent has shown many strengths over the 2016-17 school year. The majority of the evaluating members stated the benefit of his relationships with the town boards and how his communication continued to be a positive asset during the budget process again this year. The Youth Risk Behavior Survey and guidance over the creation of the Monomoy Regional High School Jossam Hour were also repeated strengths. One member commented positively that questions asked were answered and backed up by facts and practices. A couple of members have concerns regarding the superintendent's evaluation cycle not starting earlier in the year, though the committee is also responsible for this late start. While MAP testing completed its first year of use, there is an expectation from the committee to continue to receive updates. Many members brought up the DESE review and how it revealed challenges we have as a district that need to be addressed. And finally, there is a desire from several of the committee to further explore and expand upon community engagement and partnerships with all stakeholders. In summary, a quote from one member sums up the 2016-17 evaluation of the superintendent. Quote, Scott has demonstrated a calm and positive leadership style during many challenging issues during the past school year, end quote. This is exemplified by the superintendent's overall rating of proficiency. So we will then digest this, although there's really not a whole lot to digest. It's all mathematical calculations of everybody's. Does anybody find any errors? It's kind of my nightmares a couple of nights, making sure that I didn't and rechecking, so. All right, so we will look at that again at the August 24th meeting, where we will vote on the final evaluation for the 16-17 school year. Yes, ma'am.
This is just a tangent of what you said about the rumors. I've had a number of calls about the listing on the, I guess it's the school website, when we're trying to watch on TV the school committee meeting. There's a shortening where it says the initials for Monomoy Regional School Committee, and people do not understand this. So I get numerous people stopping me in the grocery store thinking we're trying to hide something. And so if we could just write that out in full, just school committee or something, it would be really helpful. So that's one little tiny thing.
Work with Steve too.
Yes, so.
Okay, good point, thank you. All right, so anything further on the evaluation? Okay, moving on, we're going to try to very briefly go through a question and answer, brief overview of the strategic plan update that Mr. Carpenter did share with us. And at our last meeting, which was almost a month ago, so we've had this for a month for review. So, Mr. Carpenter. Oh, and I'm sorry, we're only doing objective 1. We're going to try to break these down and do one objective every meeting, as to not inundate all of us with a full review. Does everybody have their copy of the strategic plan that we received at the last meeting?
Is it in our book? Here?
No, we received the copy already?
No, it
It's-
needs to be in my book.
It's quite a large packet, so we don't really want to repeat print. And it was emailed to you.
I know, I need it in
After-
my packet every time.
We gave you a copy last week when you were in the office.
No, I just asked for it to be in my packet.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay.
Tony handed you the copy.
Okay.
Someday, school committee will be paperless and we'll all have our own little computers.
That would be another way.
Can you talk while it's loading?
Sure.
Oh, look at that.
So as Nancy said, when I've talked to the chair and vice chair, what we'll do over the course of the next several school committee meetings is just take some time to talk about each of the strategic initiative or objectives individually and where we are with each, just trying to chunk it that way rather than have a long going one end to the other of this 50-some page document. So the first strategic objective was to develop engaging, appropriately challenging, and interdisciplinary curriculum. The first of the action steps for the strategic initiatives was to emphasize close reading and writing from sources. Things that we have done towards that is K through 4, we have developed performance tasks utilizing close reading, but I think a challenge that we've had at the elementary level and also at the middle school level with the big focus this past year on math in focus, we've kind of, that was sort of the one thing we were trying to have our elementary teachers wrestle with last year. So we're going to need more time to really accomplish what we want to get to when it comes to close reading and writing. I think in the document that I have shared with you, we anticipate that we'll need through the 2018-2019 school year to fully be able to check this off as being met. Things that we see that we we need to do is to make sure that we have performance tasks identified and in use across all grade levels. Currently, grades 6 and 7 at the middle school. I think we're further along than the other grade levels in this. Things we also want to make sure that happen. I think this kind of dovetails into even some of Ms. Richardson's feedback. We want to make sure that when we're having these, what I would call learning walkthroughs, when we're going into classrooms and giving feedback, that we're making sure that this is one of the things that we're giving feedback on. Is this happening in classrooms all the time? One of the important things too is that we want to make sure that that we have adequate resources. And I put a note in things that we need to think about, because I know Mr. Russell, common question he has is, budgetarily, what do we need to be thinking about? We need to improve the elementary reading resources that we have. When we're talking about close reading and writing, from sources, there's a need to improve what we have at the elementary level and what we're using in our classrooms. So that's something that we put in here that we really need to look at as we're developing the FY19 budget. We invested in Math and Focus. This past year, we need to be looking at elementary reading resources as we go into the 19 budget. Jumping to the second one that was really looking at math, this reverse engineering the math curriculum so that we are better preparing students for algebra by grade 8. As you all know, we implemented Math and Focus this past year. We've had parent universities K through 7. We had 4 separate teacher trainings to prepare our teachers, kindergarten through grade 7, to implement Math and Focus. We had 32 of our teachers also get a training from a gentleman, Barhar, who is just an authority on teaching this type of mathematical approach. Things that we still need to work on. We have to keep in mind from a budgetary standpoint that there's about $35,000 worth of consumables that Math and Focus has. We need to make sure that it's in this year's budget. We need to make sure that in future years' budgets that we're budgeting for the consumables that this math program has. The other thing that we had talked about at the administrative level this summer is we need to do a better job of sort of aligning the sequence of curriculum and as we go from grade 6 into 7, 7 into 8, 8 into 9, and it's that transitional period. A lot of it gets at how the state defines what an 8th grade curriculum is supposed to be, which, on some level it's supposed to be algebra, but there's also a whole bunch of other things that are in it that aren't algebra. And at the moment we have an 8th grade math that we call grade 8 math. We need to kind of do a better job of clarifying what the sequence is to get into algebra and do a better job in supporting students as we slowly raise the number of students that are algebra ready, heading out of 7th grade into 8th grade. Ideally, what we want to be tracking over time is seeing more and more kids ready for the advanced math in 7th grade, seeing more and more of those advanced math 7th graders succeeding in what would be the algebra class in 8th grade, and seeing more and more of those kids then succeeding in geometry in 9th grade. That's really what's behind this initiative, and we've again talked this summer about making it a very data-focused look at the curriculum. And I was meeting last week with the chair of our math department at the high school, starting to say, okay, here's what I need you to start having conversations and connecting with the middle school so that we're facilitating this alignment. C deals with outline and act a cycle which we look at each of the curriculum areas on a regular basis. We presented that curriculum cycle to the school committee. This has been adopted and implemented, so This one we've sort of checked off completely as done. D, it says promote 21st century learning within integrated units based on the core content subjects with a focus on global awareness, civic, health, environmental, and financial literacy. Towards that end, the K through 4, the elementary ELA pathways are all interdisciplinary right now. We've had 28 middle school staff and 1 elementary staff trained in service learning. It's a 2-day training that they've gone to. We have seen the high school develop a global studies program that they'll be launching this next year that really speaks to this goal. The high school's really taking the lead at developing 21st century learning expectations that Dr. Blanchard has been working with our teacher leaders on sort of backwards designing that down to elementary school, and we'll be rolling that out this year. E deals with create horizontal and vertical curriculum framework pre-K through 7 that integrates science, technology, reading, engineering, art, math to achieve the Monomoy vision by leveraging the unique history and environment of our communities. Towards that end, there are many unique learning experiences happening with our school districts, and I think that's one of the things we can be proud of. I'll give Principal Wilson a lot of credit. I really think on this one, the middle school's leading the way for our district. We see at grade 6, there's the WIDA and STEM units within the middle school. STEM, there's many units that deal with the marine environment, the vernal pools that Principal Wilson was talking about. But what's also nice about this is when we launched into this strategic plan, we were thinking pre-K through 7, but it's really become a pre-K through 12 since launching the plan. Yes, and this is, so at the high school, the history department has informally been doing a lot of this for years, and a lot of the stuff you see John Dixon do with his kids that he comes and reports out to the students and what's happening at the polls is all part and parcel of this goal. But we also have seen in the past year, again with this global studies program that's happening, we're seeing this, the vision of this actually becoming a pre-K through 12 thing. Things that we'll see coming up within the next year. I had spent a time with the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance and just working briefly with them to help them secure a grant that will now find the Aquaculture Research Center in Dennis, working with our 3rd graders in both Chatham and Harwich Elementary School to do a number of the science units that really then starts to leverage that. So we're going to see more science happening in 3rd grade starting this year as part of that grant. So again, another neat way to leverage that. And we also have started to see at Chatham Elementary School some strong connections with the Providence Town Art Museum. So hopefully we'll even see more of that start to flourish within the district. So I'll just kind of leave it at that and welcome feedback, but that's just sort of a quick overview of this initiative, where we're at, what we've accomplished, and what I see as some things that are ahead for this next year.
Ms. Stepp.
So a lot of this sounds really exciting and innovative. Some of it I don't quite understand. Like on the close reading, it says across all disciplines. Now, I'm not sure with across all disciplines if that means math and science, or if that means gym and art.
I think it's just that. I think it's important for us to emphasize that if you have a text that you need to read closely and get information out of it and apply the information, that it's not just happening in English class, that it's happening when you go into science or history or a health class, or a social emotional learning unit.
All right. Say, when we had the workshop, when we had more discussed about this, it was clear to me that some of the teachers that weren't whatever we call core teachers received like an introduction, and then the classroom teachers that were teaching, well, the classroom teacher, I guess, for the elementary would receive more intensive training on that. So I just want to make sure that if other people that didn't receive intensive training would be evaluated on that, that they'd not be evaluated to know the same degree that the classroom teachers would know.
Well, I think one of the things that I think we note in the blue at the end of this section A is things we need to do is more professional development with our teachers. We talk about the need to have more training for all teachers in what's called understanding by design, which really looks at how we can go and sort of structure curriculum, assessment, and instruction together to, again, you want to go and support the teachers in successfully implementing this initiative.
Right. Okay. So I'll be interested in hearing more about that. And the other area that I wasn't quite sure what we meant on it was, let's see where it is. Oh, E, where it says horizontal and vertical curriculum that integrates these various subjects to achieve the Monomoy vision. Now, I'm not sure what the Monomoy vision is.
I think that it's a interdisciplinary, kind of going back to the initial objective, that it is, that the learning that's happening here is an interdisciplinary approach.
Okay.
And that's why you have that list of science, technology, reading, engineering, art.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Mr. Carpenter on objective 1? Okay, thank you. So we will look to do objective 2 at our next meeting to kind of continue on through. Next up is subcommittee reports. I didn't hear any updates on the subcommittee reports. Superintendent's reports.
I will.
Mr. Carpenter?
Sorry, I'll be quick and brief. Just one thing or two things to report out on. First, building related, I met with Katie Isernio, Rick Travers, our facilities director, and this forensic electrical, mechanical, HVAC person today. So they're launching into looking at are there things that we could do to improve how the HVAC has been in this building, what do we, and hopefully will help us get this project closed out. So that's underway, and we should have a report by the end of the month. I don't think we'll have it in time for the school committee meeting at the end of this month, but we should have it in time for the first school committee meeting in September. I know you're waiting for that with bated breath. Second, something that I know I've been waiting for is just feedback from the bus company on where we are with route times. They're going to need a little more time to finalize these, but they've made some progress. My hope is that at our next committee meeting we can do a formal presentation, because by then we'll have the routes out there. They'll be live, but just some FYIs for the group. The routing at the elementary level, they've done that. Keep in mind, we added a 14th bus this year. So we had 13 buses last year. We've added a 14th bus. Last year we had several elementary routes that were 50 minutes and slightly over. I'm happy to report that with that 14th bus, our elementary route times are between 30 and 43 minutes, with only a few in that higher range. So we significantly reduced the average route time for the elementary buses. The want was to see about a 7:45 start time, and ideally have no children on the bus before 7 o'clock in the morning. What we've heard from the bus company is it looks like they can have all of the children to the elementary schools by 7:40. But remember what I said, that the routes are from 30 to 43 minutes. So there are two buses in Harwich, and Harwich has a lot of geographic area, that there are two buses that are going to have students at the moment in this draft iteration that they have. There'll be a couple kids that have to get on at 6:59 or 6:58 to have the bus there at 7:40. My hope is that as they tighten this up, that they can pick up 3 minutes somewhere, but you know, that's good news. The buses then, after they drop off at the elementary schools, need to reposition, and it'll take the buses 50 minutes max to do the runs that they do to the middle school and high school. We have to keep in mind that those runs can be up to 50 minutes because we're now having, instead of going from to a town elementary school, each bus actually crosses both towns, and we have 6 buses that radiate towards the high school, and we have 8 buses that will be radiating towards the middle school, and families that live at the far peripheries of our communities may have a student that will be on that bus for up to 50 minutes. But that would enable us to have the kids here in time for an 8:45 start time. A want that I know the committee had expressed is to see if there'd be a way to have it be a tighter turnaround time between the elementary drop-off and when the kids could get there at the high school, to potentially shift that elementary time from 7:45 closer to 8. From what I'm seeing from the bus company, that they're going to need that time, and if we try to shift it tighter, we're going to run into some situations where, and I wouldn't want to be in Mark's shoes if we were to do that, he has buses that are showing up late, and we don't want to have kids missing the start of class because buses are showing up late. So what I shout out to the principals is that I do see what we've been publicizing is the 7:45 to 2:15 for elementary school, 8:45 to 3:15 for the middle school and high school. Those seem to be in line with where the bus company is saying their early drafts of these routes are going. And I also want to be just kind of be sensitive to challenges that bus companies have. They're trying to develop routes at the same time and their Cape Destinations has always been very accommodating, making sure that every time Principal Wilson's office calls up saying, hey, we've got a new middle schoolers moved into town, they're bending over backwards to make sure that that they're putting that new family in the route structure, not saying, sorry, you'll have to wait till a couple weeks after where we work this out. So we'll have more on the routes and sort of definitive things by our next meeting.
Ms. Long?
I've been dying to talk to you about this. Any update or probability of consolidation of stops? Referencing, there's a couple buses that are going to have to be doing a 6:58 or 6:59. Can we trim some off by doing some consolidation, keeping safety in mind?
So I think the answer is we'll have that conversation and challenge the bus company when we see the draft. So I've just gotten round times. I haven't gotten. That what often happens is we'll get a draft of here are the actual stops, and that's when Katie and I and the principals will sit there and say, well, can we problem solve and pick up 3 minutes, so that nobody's having to get on a bus before 7 o'clock.
We can't suggest that before they present. I mean, would that cut a little work off of their end if we said, can you try consolidating some that makes sense to you before you present this to us?
Katie and I went over, I think it was July 7th, and had a conversation with the bus company. So we've encouraged them to do a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And so again, we have to see what that final draft looks like.
I had to ask.
I appreciate it too.
Any other questions for Mr. Carpenter? All right, we have some action items we needed to take care of before adjournment. The first up is the Monomoy Regional High School Handbook that we were presented at our last meeting. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. The next one is the Monomoy Regional High School School Improvement Plan, again, that we were presented at our last meeting. I'll entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That one is unanimous as well. And the last one, Ms. Long, is a nice packet of surplus equipment.
It's like a fan. Woo! All right. I move to declare the following surplus equipment from Harwich Elementary School: 12 fluorescent light fixtures. From the Chatham Elementary School, 1 wet vac, 1 floor scrubber, 1 extractor, 1 Holt vac, and 1 warming tray. Also from Chatham Elementary School, 7, I think it's a modulator.
Video modulator.
Here we go. 2 HP ProLiant D360s, 8 Dell laptops, 1 Sonic Wall, 21 keyboards, 15 desktops, 1 battery, 1 server, 1 desktop, Apple eMac desktop, excuse me. Also from Chatham Elementary, 6 channel processors, 1 digital channel, DEC TV. No quantity, but miscellaneous communication equipment, 1 printer, and 25 disk drives.
But wait, there's more.
There is. From Harwich Elementary, 44 laptops, HP clamshell laptops, 47 Lenovo laptops, 1 all-in-one printer, 1 inkjet printer, 1 network switch, 1 all-in-one printer, 3 small laptops, 1 CD DVD burner, 1 small switch. Also from Harwich Elementary, 1 desktop projector, 3 displays, 17 laptops, 4 servers, 1 switch, 1 CRT. Also from Harwich Elementary School, 1 DVD VHS player, 2 toner cartridges, 1 toner cartridge, 1 server rack, 1 CD DVD player, 1 server again. Sorry, Barbara, I consolidate those for you, but I know you have them in front of you. And from the Monomoy Regional Middle School, 31 desktop, hold on. Okay, I'm not adding. 31 desktop computers, DC 5100s, 26 DC 5700 desktop computers, 16 DC 5800 desktop computers, 9 Optiplex desktop computers, make that 11 desktop Optiplex computers. 2 more. 2 more Optiplex desktop computers. 2 Dimension desktop computers. 6 Precision desktop computer towers. That was a tower above it and a tower above that. 6 Dell desktop towers. 4 desktop towers DX2450. I apologize. Also from the Monomoy Regional Middle School, 67 HP keyboards, 36 Dell keyboards. Also from the middle school, 28 L1706 flat screen monitors, 11 L1710 flat screen monitors, 2 L1730 flat screen monitors, 3 V193W flat screen monitors. I heard you laughing, Donna. Monomoy Regional Middle School, 9 Mini 100E netbooks, 21 Mini 100 netbooks, 3 NX6310 laptops, 2 6730 laptops, 14 S10E laptops, 3 D630 laptops, 2 530 laptops. And from the music room at Harwich Elementary School, 1 upright piano, 1 electric organ, and 1 electronic keyboard. And from the Monomoy Regional Middle School, 1 4600 flatbed scanner, 1 8920 flatbed scanner, 1 9320 flatbed scanner, and 1 all-in-one, whatever that is,
HP.
HP. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Would anybody care to second that?
Terry?
I will.
Thank you. Any discussion on the surplus? Me?
Can
She
you
did that at
just-
the very beginning.
Nancy, can you just tell us what happens? I mean, it seems like a lot of stuff, and I know it's probably outdated.
How about, we can have Jim
Oh,
Mr.
chime in.
good.
Birchfield?
Good.
She did that first.
I know I've asked this before, but I just want to know, is any of this worth anyone getting? for
Yeah, it's a
anything?
great question. Jim Birchfield, Director of Instructional Technology. These are beyond their useful life at this point, and I'd say the majority of these devices, when you hear, all these laptops, the ones that were being surplused are, some of them go all the way back to Harwich High School and the very first one-to-one initiative that the district ever attempted, and that puts, they could be a lot of these are like 7 to 10 years old, and in the technology world, that's ancient. So we've stretched these as far as we possibly could. A lot of them were in the classrooms at the elementary school. We would trickle them down, and it just got to the point where we couldn't get them to run the programs anymore because they were just so outdated. So it's when we say we're surplusing a laptop, it's really way beyond the end of its useful life.
Jim, I realize that for our needs, they probably wouldn't be efficient for us to use them if they could do what we needed at all. But I just wondered if there's some place that might not need something so efficient.
Yeah, I think we decided that giving them, if we had an enemy, we might give them to the enemy.
All right, thank you
So
very
they would be
much.
so frustrated and it would be all terrible. But that's about as useful as they get.
Okay, I get your point.
Yeah, they're at the point where we give them to a recycler that will take the useful parts, recycle those.
They don't go in the garbage.
No, it all gets recycled properly. And then if there's hard drives, they get shredded. And,
Well, that was a very clear answer, thank you very much.
Yeah, so, we've done everything we can to squeeze every bit of life out of these devices, and we're at the end.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did we vote on that? Yes?
No.
Yes.
Yes?
Did we?
We voted
Second.
unanimous. I
Yes.
remember the first and the second, and then discussion, I
Then we
just didn't
didn't
remember if
vote.
we voted or not. But Mrs.
I don't-
Lisco says we did.
We haven't.
No, we haven't
No,
voted.
we haven't
No?
voted. It just was.
So, any other discussion? All in
reading
favor?
it.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous as well. All right, we are going to adjourn out of our regular business meeting, and then we will come to order for our workshop. So I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn from our business meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. I'm only about 20 minutes behind schedule.